The Galactic Conquering Force, or the GCF as we jokingly referred to it, because nothing instills fear quite like an acronym that sounds like someone clearing their throat, had a clear and simple objective: find worlds, conquer them, strip their resources, and move on to the next. Commander Cole, who stood at the helm of our flagship, the Inevitable Triumph, a name that now felt more like a cosmic joke, was exactly what you'd picture when imagining the leader of an intergalactic conquest armada. Towering, intimidating, with skin scorched the color of cosmic radiation burns, and a temper that could only be rivaled by the lifespan of a neutron star. "Status report on our next target?" he asked, his four eyes blinking in that weird, uncoordinated manner that always made me want to reach over and fix it myself. But as Lieutenant Garrett, I knew the value of keeping my hands where they were, especially when my appendages were too precious for such foolhardy actions. "Sol 3, I replied, trying to sound as cold and calculating as a professional conqueror. "The locals call it Earth, classified as, believe it or not, another death world." The bridge crew erupted in what we called laughter, which, if you weren't familiar with our species, might sound more like a series of malfunctioning life support system blips and wheezes. Death worlds were our specialty. It was what we were best at, our bread and butter. "Death world number 27, Subcommander Caden drawled from his station, his tentacles lazily swiping at the holographic display. "At this point, we should just rebrand ourselves as Death World Exterminators and call it a day." Cole's mandibles clicked, probably in what he considered amusement. "Give me the specs." I pulled up the data. Gravity, 9.8 ms2, barely a challenge for our troops. Atmosphere, mostly nitrogen and oxygen with traces of other gases. Nothing our filters can't manage. Temperature, ranging from -50 degrees Celsius to +50 degrees C, depending on the location. Radiation from their star is moderate. Major hazards include vast oceans of dihydrogen monoxide covering over 70% of the surface, extreme weather patterns, and active geological instability. "Sounds utterly boring," Cole yawned, flashing all 7 rows of his teeth, which glistened under the bridge lights. "And the dominant species?" "Bipedal mammals," I reported, flipping through the preliminary scans. "They call themselves humans. They've mastered basic spaceflight within their system, have nuclear capabilities, and established global communication networks. It's all within the usual range." "Resistance prediction?" Cole asked, tapping his claws against the command console. I snorted, which, given my physiology, sounded like a miniature explosion. "Standard Death World pattern, Commander. They'll fight because that's just what Death Worlders do. Then we'll crush them with superior technology and numbers. The xenobiologists are already drooling at the idea of adding another Death World species to their research banks." Cole rose from his command chair, towering over the rest of the crew. "Good. Set course for Sol 3. Standard conquest protocol. I want our forces prepped for deployment within 3 cycles." As our massive fleet adjusted its course toward the distant, nondescript blue-green dot in the sky, none of us could foresee how this Earth would be unlike any other. These humans would completely defy every prediction model we had, forcing us, perhaps for the first time ever, to revise our mission statement. The Inevitable Triumph's central hall was what Commander Cole referred to as the Gallery of Submission, though behind his back, most of us just called it the Ego Wall. Holograms of conquered worlds lined the walkway, each accompanied by a trophy taken from the dominant species. Some were weapons, others cultural artifacts, and some disturbing body parts. "I'd like to educate our newest recruits," Cole announced, his voice booming off the metallic walls, "on the glory of our victories. 26 death worlds, 26 victories, 26 species who once believed they were the galaxy's top predators, until they met us." The new recruits exchanged nervous glances, the sound of their chatter echoing like raindrops tapping against sheet metal. I stood at attention next to Cole, secretly rolling my tertiary eyes while keeping my primary ones firmly ahead. "Observe Pyro 9, Cole gestured to a hologram of a magma-scorched planet. Surface temperatures averaging 350 degrees Celsius. The Vulks are evolved in underground caverns, emerging only to hunt. They thought their heat resistance made them invulnerable." He chuckled, tapping a dark, glassy spear mounted on the wall. "We simply flooded their caverns with cryogenic gas. They surrendered in just 6 hours. The recruits dutifully recorded this in their neural implants. One brave soul raised an appendage." "But Commander, didn't we lose 3 battalions on Pyro 9? Cole's face hardened, and he delivered his answer in a tone colder than the vacuum of space. Sacrifices made for the greater glory of the GCF are never losses, Recruit Yitra. They are investments. Without pausing for more questions, he moved swiftly on. Merciless efficiency is what defines us, Sub-Commander Caden added, his voice gravelly, like stones grinding together. Take Aquila 3, for example. He pointed to a display showing a water-covered world. Its atmospheric pressure would crush most species. The Azerillians evolved to withstand the pressure, breathe underwater, and even developed bioelectric defenses. How did we defeat them? Asked one wide-eyed recruit. Caden's mouthparts curled into a sinister approximation of a smile. We unleashed an engineered virus that targeted their bioelectric cells. No electric charge, no defense. No defense, no victory. They now farm algae for our protein synthesizers. I stepped forward, highlighting the next hologram. Terox Prime, gravity 3 times stronger than what we feel here. The Rakan developed exoskeletons capable of supporting their immense weight, granting them strength beyond belief. I gestured toward a piece of armored plating mounted on the wall. One Rakan soldier could tear through a standard battlecruiser hull with these natural weapons. Yet they fell. Cole interrupted, eager to steal the spotlight. Yes, Commander, he said, cutting anyone off before they could take center stage for longer than a few moments. I suppressed a sigh, continuing to focus on the situation. We engineered targeted electromagnetic pulses that interfered with the Rakan's neural connections to their exoskeletons, effectively rendering them immobile. The conquest took 7 days. Cole, strutting, yes, I do mean strutting, past several more displays, stopped at one marked Draconis 7. The Draxar were perhaps our most formidable opponents yet. Evolved to survive in a methane-rich environment with constant lightning storms, their bodies generated natural electrical fields for both defense and offense. He tapped the mounted object, a ceremonial mask made of an unusual metallic substance. They lasted 3 weeks against us. Their final transmission? Begging for mercy. The recruits buzzed with excitement and bloodlust, clearly thrilled by the prospect of more glory. This was what they'd signed up for, the conquest, the victory, the certainty of success. Cole concluded, his voice now taking on a dangerous purring tone. Deathworlders are predictable. They adapt to their harsh environments, making them feel invincible. But their specialization is their weakness. Find it, exploit it, watch them fall. Little did we know, the humans, those peculiar beings from Earth, had somehow missed the memo about specializing. And that, as we would soon discover, would be our downfall. Our first detailed scan of Earth left our science teams utterly baffled. Chief Scientist Ethan Flux paced around the holographic display of the planet, muttering equations and calculations to himself. Problems, Chief? I asked, entering the science bay with a data pad in my upper limbs. Lieutenant Garrett, perfect timing. Ethan's 6 eyes blinked rapidly, a clear sign of agitation in our species. This planet is perplexing. I glanced at the rotating hologram. To me, it seemed unremarkable, just the standard blue, green, and white swirls of cloud cover. It's a standard Class M planet, isn't it? Oh, it's a death world, all right, Ethan snorted, adjusting his lab coat with his secondary arms, while his primaries manipulated the display. But look at these readings. He expanded the display, showing a mosaic of Earth's surface, desert regions hot enough to cook our species alive, right next to frozen wastelands that would shatter our exoskeletons. Oceans so deep they could crush most of our vessels, mountains that reached up to the troposphere, active volcanoes, hurricanes, tornadoes, tsunamis, earthquakes. The planet was diverse, to say the least. I shrugged. Many planets have varied biomes. No, not like this. Ethan shook his head so violently I worried his skull might detach. Most death worlds have 1 or 2 major hazards. Earth, however, has cataloged over 500 distinct natural disaster types, and somehow the local species has managed to settle in every single biome. That was unusual, even by our standards. I leaned in to study the data more closely. Adaptive architecture, Ethan added with a laugh that sounded like someone choking on gravel. They live in paper-thin structures in tornado zones, wooden houses on fault lines, floating dwellings in hurricane paths. It's as if they're daring their planet to kill them. What about the humans themselves? I asked. Specialized adaptations? Ethan brought up the biological scans showing human anatomy from multiple angles. That's the truly bizarre part. He gestured at the data. They have almost no specialized adaptations, no armor, no venom, no enhanced senses, no natural weapons beyond some blunt teeth and nails. They're generalists. Generalists don't survive on death worlds, I stated flatly, reciting basic xenobiology. Ethan slammed all four of his hands on the console. Yet somehow, they are the apex species. They can survive, at least temporarily, in every environment on their planet with minimal technological aid. They routinely put themselves in extreme conditions for fun. He pulled up footage of humans swimming in freezing waters, climbing sheer rock faces without safety gear, running across scorching deserts, diving into deep oceans. Their physical resilience defies all our models. They can survive losing limbs, significant blood volume, and even organs. Their bones heal on their own, and they intentionally injure their muscles to make them stronger. And their reproductive rate? He shuddered. It's alarming. Recommendation for invasion protocol? I asked, sensing his unease. Ethan hesitated for the first time I'd ever seen him show doubt. Standard procedure should be fine, but I'd advise we maintain heightened alert status. These humans are unpredictable. If only we had realized then how much of an understatement that was. First contact with the humans went exactly as we expected, meaning it didn't go anything like we had planned. The GCF protocol for initial contact was clear and straightforward: land in a remote area, capture a few specimens for study, assess their reactions, then show overwhelming force. Fear was an excellent motivator for conquest. We chose a location on Earth called Montana, a sparsely populated region, filled with mountains, forests, and minimal technological monitoring. Captain Tyler Pulser led the advanced team, deploying in a standard stealth shuttle. From the inevitable triumph, I monitored the operation with Commander Cole and the increasingly nervous chief scientist, Ethan. Team Scythe, reporting successful touchdown. Tyler's voice crackled through the comms. No detection, beginning specimen collection, engaging optical camouflage for 20 minutes. For a while, everything went according to protocol. The team found an isolated dwelling, a structure humans referred to as a cabin, and prepared to extract its occupants. 2 humans detected inside, Tyler reported, preparing stun field. That's when everything went sideways. Suddenly, the shuttle was toppled, exploding spectacularly, the fire crackling through the comms. "We're taking fire," Tyler's voice blared through the comms, the sound of sharp cracks and pings filling the air. "The humans have detected us somehow." Cole leaned forward in his command chair, eyes narrowed. "Impossible. Our camouflage technology is undetectable to species at their level." "Tell that to the projectiles bouncing off our shuttle," Tyler shouted, his voice distorted by the sounds of battle. "They're using primitive chemical propellant weapons," Ethan said, frantically examining the data stream. "How are they targeting us?" "Thermal imaging. Their weapons have thermal scopes. They can see our heat signatures," Ethan muttered. "That's actually quite clever," I muttered under my breath, earning a sharp glare from Cole. "Deploy the stun field," Tyler commanded. A moment of tense silence passed, and then the stun field activated. Targets neutralized, proceeding with extraction. A collective wave of relief spread across the bridge. Standard protocol resumed until 5 minutes later. "Sir, the subjects are regaining consciousness. Already." Tyler's voice had risen in pitch, clearly startled. "The stun field's effectiveness is fading fast." "Impossible," Ethan murmured, his voice barely above a whisper as he double-checked his readings. "The field should incapacitate them for at least 6 hours." "Well, they're very capacitated now," Tyler shot back, his tone escalating. "And what are they doing? Are they pouring liquids on themselves?" "What?" Cole demanded, his voice tinged with frustration. "They're dousing themselves with a bottle labeled hot sauce," Tyler explained. "And they're snorting some white powder. Their metabolic readings are spiking drastically, heart rates accelerating. The stun field is completely ineffective." I exchanged a confused glance with Ethan. These creatures, these humans, were intentionally ingesting stimulants to counter our technology. "They've rearmed," Tyler continued, "taking cover, requesting immediate—" His transmission cut off abruptly. "ID report," Cole barked. The only response was static. 3 minutes later, we managed to reestablish communication. The team had retreated to their shuttle, and 2 soldiers were wounded, not by primitive projectile weapons, but by something called a chainsaw, which one of the humans had wielded with surprising effectiveness. "These creatures are insane," Tyler's report concluded. "They showed no fear. If anything, they became more aggressive after we revealed ourselves. The smaller one kept shouting about finally having proof and tried to capture us. Cole was visibly displeased. His mandibles clicked in rapid succession, signaling agitation. "This changes nothing," he declared, his voice firm. "Isolate incident. Anomalous subjects move to Phase 2. Phase 2 was a more direct approach. Land in a heavily populated area and make an official demand for surrender. We chose Central Park in New York City, a well-known metropolitan area. 3 shuttles descended in broad daylight, unloading a contingent of our most intimidating troops, fully armed with advanced weaponry. Commander Cole transmitted a loud, booming message from orbit, which was projected on massive holographic screens for all to hear. "People of Earth," the voice thundered, "we are the galactic conquering force. Your planet is now under our control. Resistance is futile. Surrender your governing authorities immediately." The expected outcome of such a show of force would be panic, confusion, and perhaps a desperate military response, followed by a request for surrender. Instead, we were greeted with cameras. Thousands of humans were pointing small devices at our troops, broadcasting the event, commenting on it, and even taking selfies with our shuttles in the background. "What are they doing?" Cole demanded, watching the live feeds in disbelief. "They appear to be documenting the invasion, sir," I said, equally bewildered. A human in a blue uniform approached the shuttle, looking completely unimpressed. "Hey, you guys got a permit for this? You can't just land in Central Park without a filming permit. Is this for a movie or something?" Even more baffling, some humans were approaching our soldiers, asking for autographs and if they were promoting the latest Marvel movie. Our troops, highly trained for handling terror and resistance, had no protocols for dealing with enthusiasm or bureaucratic queries about permits. "Sir," the ground commander reported, "local authorities are demanding we pay a fee for unauthorized event staging. Something called the EPA is concerned about shuttle emissions." Commander Cole's eye stalks stiffened in fury. "Deploy warning measures. Show them our power." Our troops fired energy weapons into the sky, creating a dazzling light show. The humans responded with applause and, of course, more cameras. "Dude, the special effects are incredible," one human shouted. "Is this a 5D experience?" Back on the bridge, Ethan was practically shedding his exoskeleton with stress. "They don't understand, or they're in complete denial. Our psychological warfare models predicted immediate recognition of superior force." I watched the madness unfold before me, a slow realization creeping up on me. "Sir," I said slowly, "I think the problem might be entertainment," Cole growled. "Explain." "Their global information networks are flooded with fictional scenarios just like this. Alien invasions. They're desensitized. They think this is all fake." Cole's stare could have melted solid titanium. "Then we shall make them believe otherwise." That's when we made our first major blunder. Commander Cole's solution to the human perception problem was brutally simple. Escalate. We needed to show them undeniable force and make them understand that this was no movie. "Target their military installations first," he ordered, his face set in a hard expression. "Then their power infrastructure. Standard conquest protocol." I watched from my station as our fleet deployed orbital strike vessels. The bridge hummed with anticipation. This was familiar territory. We had crushed 26 Death World species this way. Earth would be no different, or so we thought. The first plasma barrage struck a military base in a region called Nevada. Our scanners showed significant technological activity there, indicating it was a primary defense installation. The strikes hit with pinpoint accuracy, creating spectacular explosions visible even from orbit. Direct hits confirmed, and satisfaction was evident in Tactical Officer Tyler Pulser's voice. "Moving to secondary targets," she reported. Meanwhile, Ethan was monitoring human communications. His expression grew darker and more disturbed with each passing moment. "Sir," he said, his voice tinged with disbelief, "the humans are celebrating." "What?" Cole snapped, his fury growing. "They're calling it the best special effects ever. And viral marketing genius. Something called Twitter is exploding with praise for entities called Disney and Netflix." Cole slammed his command console, his voice rising with anger. "Are they blind? We just vaporized a military installation." "Well, about that, sir," Ethan hesitated. "According to human broadcasts, we hit something called Area 51, which is both a military site and the focal point of massive conspiracy theories about aliens." The bridge fell deathly silent as the realization sunk in. We had unknowingly reinforced their disbelief by targeting the one military installation on their planet most associated with fictional alien narratives. Continue with the power grid targets, Cole growled through gritted teeth. We knocked out power to 3 major cities. The humans responded with remarkable efficiency, rerouting power within hours. Still, many believed it was some elaborate show, a government exercise, or a hacker attack. Their news channels debated who was responsible, but none seriously entertained the idea of actual aliens. Cole's patience, always thin, snapped entirely. Deploy ground forces, full invasion protocols. We launched dropships, carrying our ground troops into the fray. Elite shock troops deployed to 6 continental locations simultaneously. Thousands of GCF soldiers, armed with the most advanced weaponry in the galaxy, descended upon Earth. That's when we realized just how woefully unprepared we were for humans. Sir, the panicked voice of Colonel Nathan Astor, commanding the North American Invasion Force, cut through the command channel. The humans are using banned chemical weapons. What? Cole demanded, his tone sharp. They have chemical weapons capabilities? They're deploying something called pepper spray. It's penetrating our respiratory filters, Colonel Astor reported, his voice strained. Our soldiers are incapacitated. Similar reports flooded in from all invasion fronts. In the European theater, civilians were fighting back with improvised weapons and tactics that defied all logic but somehow seemed effective. In Russia, locals were setting traps that our advanced sensors couldn't detect. Sir, the Asian forces report humans are using primitive projectile weapons, but the ammunition— Ethan hesitated, his voice thick with disbelief. It's adapting. They're watching which rounds penetrate our armor and switching to those types. I pulled up the tactical displays, watching in horror as our carefully orchestrated invasion descended into chaos. This wasn't supposed to happen. Deathworlders fought hard, yes, but predictably. They used their specialized evolutionary advantages in well-known ways. But the humans, they were fighting with everything. The South American force is retreating, someone shouted. The humans released venomous creatures into our camp. Africa's division reports their vehicles have been disabled by children, another officer reported. They removed critical components while our troops were engaged elsewhere. Cole was livid. His exoskeleton flushed a deep purple, a clear sign of his fury. How is this possible? They're primitives with minimal natural defenses. Ethan, frantically analyzing the incoming data, spoke with growing concern. Sir, they're not fighting as isolated groups. They're sharing information globally. Successful tactics in one region are being rapidly adopted across the planet. That's impossible, Tactical Officer Tyler Pulser objected. The communication lag alone. They're using something called TikTok and YouTube, Ethan interrupted, eyes wide. Instructional videos on how to disable our tech are going viral. I watched in disbelief as a transmission from Australia showed a teenage human demonstrating how to short-circuit our force shields using household chemicals and a device called a super soaker. Sir, I said quietly to Cole, I think we may need to reconsider our approach. Nonsense, he snapped, his voice dripping with disdain. We've conquered death worlds before. Deploy the bioagents. Bioagents were our standard fallback, a tailored biological weapon designed to incapacitate a species without killing them, making conquest clean and leaving resources intact. 3 hours later, Ethan delivered the crushing news. The bioagents are ineffective, he reported, his voice hollow with disbelief. Human immune systems are adapting, and they've identified the delivery mechanism. They're wearing masks. What? Cole exploded. Simple facial coverings can't defeat military-grade bioagents. They apparently can, I murmured, watching footage of humans wearing everything from sophisticated filter masks to improvised bandanas while continuing to fight. And sir, Ethan added, his voice laden with frustration, they're calling them space germs and developing countermeasures. Their pharmaceutical companies are in a race to produce treatments, driven by something called profit motive. For the first time in GCF history, we had to admit a horrifying truth. The initial invasion had failed. The command center of the inevitable triumph morphed into what humans might call a war room, though it looked more like a scientific conference in the middle of a meltdown. View screens displayed ongoing skirmishes across Earth's surface, and none of them were going in our favor. Commander Cole had called an emergency strategy session, which consisted primarily of him pacing furiously while the rest of us tried to avoid becoming the target of his rage. "Explain," he demanded, looming over Chief Scientist Ethan. "How are these hairless primates defeating our elite forces?" Ethan nervously adjusted his datapad, unable to meet Cole's glare. "Sir, we've been analyzing human behavior patterns and, well, they're not following any of our predictive models." At that moment, I decided to risk speaking up. "Sir, if I may, I've been studying their historical records, and there's something remarkable about humans." All eyes turned to me, some blinking with curiosity, others with skepticism. Every other Death World species evolved specific adaptations to their planet's dangers. The Volxer developed heat resistance. The Xerillians adapted to pressure, specialized solutions to specific problems. I brought up a series of human historical images on the main view screen, showing humans in different environments across their history, crossing deserts, sailing oceans, scaling mountains, and surviving in Arctic conditions. But humans did something different. They weren't the strongest, the fastest, or the most naturally armed species on their planet, so they became adaptable. I continued, pulling up more footage. They compensated for their biological limitations with technology, yes, but more importantly, with behavioral flexibility. Tactical Officer Tyler Pulser snorted. "You make them sound like some kind of super species. They're just primitive mammals," I countered, highlighting a tactical report from Earth's Pacific region. "Primitive mammals who just disabled 3 of our capital ships using something called fishing nets and boat propellers." Subcommander Caden, who had been unusually quiet up to this point, suddenly spoke up. "The lieutenant has a point. We're seeing unprecedented adaptation speeds. Look at their response to our sonic weapons." He brought up footage from a battle in a place called Detroit, where our troops had deployed acoustic disruptors designed to incapacitate the enemy through overwhelming sensory input. The humans initially fell back, but within hours they returned, wearing, of all things, noise-canceling headphones repurposed from consumer electronics. "They're using their own entertainment technology as military countermeasures," Caden observed. "Ingenious, really. And look at this," I added, showing another video from a desert region where humans had disabled our hover tanks. They observed that our vehicles generated heat signatures and electromagnetic fields, so they baited them into areas with naturally occurring mineral deposits that disrupted those fields. "They're using their knowledge of their own planet against us," Ethan nodded vigorously. "That's not even the most concerning part. Humans appear to thrive under pressure. Their historical records show repeated instances where their most significant technological advancements occurred during periods of extreme crisis. They're literally innovating faster because we're attacking them." The realization hit us all like a blast of cold air. The humans weren't just surviving, they were evolving, adapting, and overcoming everything we threw at them. I concluded, our invasion isn't crushing their spirit, it's accelerating their development. Commander Cole's eye stalks drooped slightly, the closest he'd ever come to showing defeat. "So what you're saying," I asked grimly, "is that every day we fight them, they become more dangerous?" Commander Cole was unaccustomed to failure. After 26 successful conquests, he had cultivated an unwavering confidence in his victory, a belief that bordered on religious faith. But when faced with the first real chance of defeat, he did what any cornered predator would. He became more dangerous. "Prepare the Nova cannons," he ordered, his voice unnervingly calm. The bridge fell completely silent. Even the hum of the ship's engines seemed to soften, as though the ship itself was waiting for the storm to hit. "Sir," Subcommander Caden ventured carefully, "the Nova cannons are planet killers. High Command protocols prohibit—" "I know what they are," Cole snapped, cutting him off. "And I know the protocols. But we've never encountered a species like this. If we can't have this world, no one will." His mandibles clicked rapidly, an unmistakable sign of absolute determination. I exchanged worried glances with Ethan. This was no longer about conquest. This was extinction. The Nova cannons started charging, sending deep vibrations that reverberated through the ship. 4 hours, Ethan muttered, until firing capacity. 4 hours until Earth became nothing more than cosmic debris. I made a choice, one that would either make me a hero or a traitor, depending on who told the story. "Commander," I said, trying to keep my voice calm, "before we take such irreversible action, I request permission to attempt one final diplomatic contact." Cole stared at me, all 4 eyes unblinking. "Diplomacy? Now? He said, his tone dismissive. Yes, sir, I pressed on. Our models for human behavior have been wrong at every turn. Perhaps our assumptions about their willingness to negotiate are equally flawed. What do you propose, Lieutenant? Caden asked, clearly grasping for any alternative to planetary destruction. Direct communication with their leaders, I suggested. No threats, no displays of force, just talking. Cole laughed, a rough, harsh sound. After all this, you think they'll just chat with us? They're Deathworlders, Lieutenant. They'll fight to the last. Every other Deathworld species would, yes, I agreed. But humans have proven themselves to be different. There was a long pause before Cole finally waved a dismissive claw. You have 1 hour, Lieutenant. 1, then the Nova cannons fire. I worked as quickly as I could with Ethan to establish communication with Earth's governing bodies. To our surprise, they responded almost immediately. In the main conference chamber, a large view screen flickered to life, showing a diverse group of humans seated around a long table. They identified themselves as the United Nations Security Council. This is Lieutenant Alyssa Garrett of the Galactic Conquering Force, I began, trying to sound authoritative despite my growing anxiety. I am authorized to discuss terms of— Let me stop you right there, interrupted one of the humans, a woman with close-cropped silver hair and piercing eyes. We're not interested in discussing our surrender. I blinked, thrown off balance. I was actually going to propose a ceasefire. The humans exchanged glances. The silver-haired woman, who introduced herself as Secretary General Sophia Williams, leaned forward. Lieutenant, your forces have been attacking us for 2 weeks. You've destroyed military installations, damaged infrastructure, and caused significant disruption. But you've deliberately avoided civilian population centers. You could have caused mass casualties, but you didn't. This caught me off guard. She wasn't wrong. Cole's strategies, for all their aggression, had adhered to GCF protocols for minimal collateral damage, protocols designed to preserve resources, not out of moral concern. We've been studying you as much as you've been studying us. Another human, a man with dark skin and an accent I couldn't place, said. Your technology is impressive, but your tactics suggest you've never faced significant resistance before. I almost laughed at the understatement. Unexpectedly resilient, he'd said. Here's what we propose, Secretary Williams continued. Not surrender. Alliance. The word alliance hung in the air like a plasma charge, ready to detonate. Alliance, I repeated, genuinely intrigued. The GCF doesn't form alliances. We conquer. What could you possibly offer the GCF? Adaptability, a third human answered simply. You've seen what we can do under pressure. Pressure? I raised an eyebrow. Look at how quickly we innovate. Imagine what we could achieve as partners rather than enemies. While they spoke, Ethan quietly passed me a datapad showing a troubling development. The humans had somehow managed to hack into our fleet's secondary systems. They weren't attacking us. They were simply demonstrating they could. I thought about the Nova cannons charging at Cole's orders. I thought about 26 conquered worlds, and about a commander who couldn't accept failure. There's something you should know, I said, making another potentially treasonous choice. Commander Cole has activated our planet-killer weapons. They'll fire in approximately 3 hours. Instead of panic, the humans showed grim determination. Secretary Williams nodded to someone off-screen. Then we should move quickly. We've already infiltrated your fleet's communication systems. We can broadcast a message directly to your high command, bypassing Commander Cole entirely. My jaw dropped. You what? As we said, Lieutenant, we've been studying you. We've found some very interesting articles in your military code about unlawful extinction events and chain of command protocols. For the first time since arriving on Earth, I felt something I hadn't anticipated, hope. What exactly are you proposing? I asked. Secretary Williams smiled, not the smile of someone facing annihilation, but the confident, calm expression of someone holding a winning hand. A mutiny, Lieutenant, but one that saves 2 civilizations instead of destroying them. The next 12 hours passed in a blur of action that would have made even the most chaotic human action films seem tame. With the help of Earth's leaders, we transmitted evidence of Cole's planet-killer activation directly to GCF High Command, a clear violation of Protocol 37.6 regarding extinction-level weapons. The response was swift. Cole was removed from command and, against all odds, I was appointed as the acting commander until a suitable replacement arrived. Cole didn't handle this turn of events well. He barricaded himself on the bridge with a handful of loyal officers, threatening to fire the Nova cannons manually. It took a coordinated operation, human hackers disabling key systems from Earth, while a team led by Sub-Commander Caden stormed the bridge to forcibly end his command. 5 standard rotations later, I found myself standing in the newly repurposed Gallery of Cooperation aboard the renamed Starship Inevitable Progress, facing a delegation of human representatives. The irony was not lost on me. Where Cole had once displayed trophies of conquest, we were now hosting diplomatic receptions. The treaty has been ratified by both the GCF High Command and Earth's United Nations, I announced, nearly in disbelief as I spoke the words. For the first time in GCF history, an unconquered world is entering into partnership with us. Secretary Williams, now Earth's official ambassador to the galactic community, stepped forward. We look forward to a fruitful exchange of knowledge, technology, culture. She paused briefly. And military tactics, added General Marcus Chen, with a smile that somehow managed to be both welcoming and mildly intimidating. The reception that followed was distinctly human in its organized chaos. Loud music, laughter, food, and drinks of dubious safety for various species, and spontaneous discussions breaking out between human scientists and our xenobiologists. Chief Scientist Ethan approached me, looking somewhat dazed after a lengthy conversation with 3 human researchers. "Lieutenant, sorry, Commander," he began. "They have the most extraordinary theoretical approaches to physics, completely unorthodox, but they work." "That seems to be their specialty," I replied, reflecting on how their unconventional methods consistently proved effective. Later, I found myself standing with Secretary Williams by a viewport, staring down at Earth. Beautiful, terrifying, magnificent Earth. "You know," she mused, "we were always certain we weren't alone in the universe. We just expected first contact to be more peaceful." I clicked my mandibles in amusement. "And we always expected conquest to be more conquest." She laughed, a sound I was coming to appreciate more with each passing moment. Cole made a fundamental error in judgment. He saw our adaptability as a weakness. Jack of all trades, master of none. "But that's not the whole picture, is it?" I recited the full saying, which we had shortened over time. "Jack of all trades, master of none, is often better than master of one." She gazed at her home planet below. "Specialization creates vulnerability. Adaptability creates resilience." I thought back to the 26 conquered worlds, each with species that had evolved perfect adaptations to their specific threats, only to fall short when faced with the unexpected. "The GCF has a lot to learn from humans," I admitted. "And we have much to learn from you," Secretary Williams replied diplomatically. But we both knew the truth that would soon reshape galactic politics. In the cosmic game of survival, Earth's scrappy, stubborn, innovative humans had discovered the ultimate evolutionary strategy, not to become the perfect specialist, but to become the ultimate generalist. Not to dominate their environment, but to master change itself. The galaxy would never be the same, and neither would we. As the newly appointed historian of human GCF relations, I can now state with certainty, we conquered every death world until we met Earth. Here, Earth conquered us, not with weapons, but with possibilities.